All right. Well, I've been thinking a lot about Obamacare, uh, or the what's it called, um, Affordable Health Care Act, or whatever they're calling it. All over the mainstream media, though, it's called Obamacare, so I'll just refer to it that way. Uh, and the debate over whether or not the individual mandate included in that bill is constitutional. I think the question should be, is the entirety of the bill constitutional? And I think that that's what the point of bringing it to the Supreme Court was originally. Um, Anybody who's arguing that the individual mandate as a tax is unconstitutional has obviously not been paying attention to the evolution of the Constitution. Um, right now, the amount of money that you are taxed depends upon all kinds of different variables, including other products that you purchase or decide not to purchase, such as renovating your home so that it's eco-friendly. Putting in solar panels in your house will get you a tax rebate. There are a number of different things you can do to change the amount of money that you are taxed. One of them now is deciding not to purchase health care. You'll be taxed a little bit higher. This is just one of the things that the IRS has done to make taxation a little bit too complicated for people to fight effectively unless they're lawyers. Is it constitutional? Question is it right? And I think that if we're going to abolish the individual mandate to purchase health care insurance, we would have to get rid of a lot of other legislation also. And that's probably why they declared that section of it to be constitutional. Just because it's on par with the rest of our taxation. However, everybody seems to be losing sight of the fact that we took it to the Supreme Court as a means of deciding if the entire document was unconstitutional. And they chose to focus on the individual mandate. Now they've declared that portion of it to be constitutional, which any lawyer will tell you is correct. I mean, we would have to step back several decades in order to make that part of it unconstitutional again. Which, I mean, if someone tried to enforce an individual mandate back in the 1800s, yeah, of course that would be unconstitutional. I mean, back before the IRS existed, of course. The IRS exists now, and it has been using similar tactics for taxation for a very long time. We would have to go to a straight tax in order to make it line up with how the Constitution designed things to be. However, I think that we should take it back to the Supreme Court and take a look at everything in the document. Coverage for pre-existing conditions. There are a lot of different things in there that impose the will of civil engineers, the 1%, on businesses and individuals in many different ways that I think should be considered unconstitutional. But, I mean, I'm not a Supreme Court justice, so it's up to them. But it's also sort of the ball's in our court also. We need to wait until this legislation comes to full fruition in 2014 and we see the negative effects of it before we take it back to the Supreme Court. I think it needs to have more widespread dissent among the people. I think that we need to have a majority of the people in our country be against this act before we take it back to the Supreme Court and ask them to analyze the entire thing to determine if it's unconstitutional. again, which they left us that loophole by transforming the debate into one about the mandate, the individual mandate. They have essentially just declared that one portion of the bill is constitutional, which means that the rest of it is still up for grabs. We can still take the rest of it up to the Supreme Court and debate it. I think that it's the best policy to just wait until everybody hates this bill, and then once it fails to do what the people who framed it claim to intend to have it do, people will be upset about it, and then at that point we can take it to the Supreme Court and expect them to do the right thing with it. As for right now, though, anyone who is debating whether or not the individual mandate is constitutional by today's standards is just not paying attention. There are many worse offenses against the Constitution than the individual mandate as it stands right now, with just raising your taxes if you don't purchase health care. I mean, I don't know. It's a debate, and you might not feel the same way, but just take a look at the IRS, the tax code. There are so many different things that you can purchase or decide not to purchase that will determine how much money you are taxed or refunded by the government every year when you do an income tax. Is the income tax constitutional? It is now, because there's an amendment that changed the Constitution that made it so that Congress was allowed to tax individuals. Originally it was set up so that Congress had to tax the states severally, and the states had to tax the individuals, giving people a chance to opt out and not be singled out. So that if the entire state decided, no, we're not going to pay these taxes, the entire state would have to be thrown in jail, as opposed to just having that one individual who says, no, this is wrong, I'm not going to pay these taxes, and now he's on his own because he's directly taxed by the federal government. But that's a whole different thing. I think that amendment is unconstitutional. But it's in our Constitution now, and they just used it to justify something that by that amendment is totally constitutional. I guess that's really all I have to say about it. I mean, we shall see what further injustices happen as a result of this precedent that we've set. I think that, honestly, it's not bad enough yet to where we can expect to see any real change. I heard somebody say something, quoting Gandhi the other day, that life is a cycle, that it starts with disunity as a result of success. And then when people disunify and split up and focus on themselves, failure is a result. So it goes from disunity to failure, and then failure leads to unity. When everybody's poor again, we all gather up and we become a unified people once more. And then once that happens, success is a result of unity. And then, of course, the result of success is inevitably disunity. And it's just a cycle like this. And we are currently experiencing the fallout of the success that we have been enjoying in the first chunk of the 21st century. And once we disunified, now we're starting to see the failure that's the result of that. But we haven't seen the full scale of it yet. And once we are all failing, we should probably unify again, I think, as a result of that failure. But we haven't gotten there yet. We're not there yet. So there's no reason to even attempt to try and change these things. They need to get much worse before they even can get better. So I'm not even going to fight it anymore. We will see it get fixed, but it's going to take another decade at least. So, so that's how I feel about this whole Obamacare thing.